So we're going to move on to 5.2, which is a delegation from Akeem Gardner and Randy Osei from Atlas365 in regards to sustainable building materials. Welcome.
Hello. Hello, Chair, Mayor Brown, fellow members of City Council. My name is Akeem Gardner of Atlas365, my business partner, Randy Osei. And today I want to share with you guys how cannabis can be one of our secret weapons in Brampton's 2040 vision. My presentation is going to go slightly over 5 minutes. Can I ask for a few more minutes to speak?
Okay. Moved by Councilman, all in favor?
Can I change slides to this one?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So to start, I want to introduce you guys. This is my niece, Naya. She's 2 years old. She was born right here in Brampton. In the year 2050, she'll be 33 years old. But she, like many of our other children, won't be able to afford her house in Brampton. And I want to tell you why. $43 billion. This is how much insurance companies are expecting to pay out due to property damage due to severe weather by the year 2050. With this in mind, insurance companies are expected to raise home insurance premiums 2 to 4% annually. That can result in premiums that can cost up to $94,000 by the year 2050. If we take into account yesterday's federal government report about the rate at which Canada was warming, these expectations, they seem to be conservative. It could be a lot more than this. Worse, we're self-inflicting this on ourselves as our buildings, homes, and the construction industry all continue to be a leading industry emitter for greenhouse gases here in Ontario today. All this begs the question, how do we solve this problem before it's too late? Well, we're Atlas365, and we're developing a complete, sustainable, concrete alternative for developers to be used in residential, commercial, and industrial properties. This building material is twice as strong and resilient as traditional building materials, and also reduce the environmental and economic burdens attached to new property development. This raw material grows right on our farms. This raw material is called industrial hemp. At the bottom left, you can see a picture of the Just Biofiber block. I'll take you through it. On the top left, you can see the first house built in Souk, British Columbia. It's called the Harmless Home. So to start, I want to talk to you a little bit about the difference between hemp and its more famously known cousin, marijuana or weed. Hemp doesn't get you high, can't get you high, but instead it's grown for industrial and commercial purposes, used for things like food, rope, clothing, and building materials. As a matter of fact, hemp has a rich history in humanity. It can be traced back as far as 800 BC to China, where it was used for textiles and fabrics. Our company grows hemp north of Brampton, and with the hemp of many local farmers in Ontario, one of which from Barrie, Ontario, he's in the crowd, to represent all of our Ontario farmers. We all grow hemp together because we know what this will do for us in the future development of Ontario and of Canada. With the help of our partners in Calgary, Alberta, we can manufacture this hemp into the Just Biofiber block, a factory-formed interconnecting block that is a complete construction solution for external or internal walls. Benefits of this block include the fact that it's carbon neutral, it's easy to install, no skilled labor is required, and it has an R32 insulation value, increasing the energy efficiency of our buildings and our homes. In fact, the Canadian Green Building Council, to which we're a member of, awarded this product of the year runner-up in 2018. The block has passed all of its testing and certifications. It's building code compliant for properties up to 4 stories tall thus far. And it has superior performance attributes, especially when we compare it to the more commonly used precast concrete block or the concrete masonry unit. much better for strength and resiliency of our buildings. The added bonus is also cheaper. What does this mean? When we look at our homes, we can save up to 48% of the cost in residential houses. It's 48% of the cost of the building materials for residential homes, and will also provide better energy efficiencies than we have in our homes now. If we look at our hospitals, assuming Williams-Holster was built entirely of precast concrete, we would have saved over $3 million Canadian if we used this as a concrete alternative. We only need to look at Brampton's projected growth to see why it's important that we start to future-proof our investments into the built environment. I also want to point out that this project is being pioneered by us in Brampton, for us in Brampton. This is where we learned all of our key skills of how to build a team and how important collaboration is to the success of any goal and mission. When we reach full capacity, our manufacturing plant will have over 70 full-time jobs, which we intend to house right here in Brampton. We also intend to utilize Brampton's young, educated workforce to further develop the industry with innovations like what you see on the right, the hemp brick that can store electricity right inside of it. What this means is that in the future of housing, we can possibly have units that have solar panels on the roof and store energy right in our walls, reducing the needs for external grids and saving energy costs in our homes and our buildings. Oh, sorry. Now we can't get there alone. This is why individuals like David Lang and the Institute for Sustainability Brampton are so important for young companies like us. We need their help just like we need yours. But what I'm most excited about in all this is how the built environment are going to impact our future and our current citizens. So studies have shown that green buildings increase cognitive function of those inside them up to 101%. Growing up around vegetation decrease the risk of mental health disorders in adulthood by up to 55%. So can you imagine what our children will be like when we build our future homes and schools up to these standards? We should aim to find out, just like this school in Quebec is doing. After all, the first 2,000 days of life are the most critical, as this is when 90% of the human brain is developed. Further, I want to add to this how this affects our citizens right now. As our population continues to age, as we'll have the need for more elderly homes, advanced care homes, the green buildings will have the same effects on cognitive performance of our aging citizens as it will for our young. So today we're here to ask Brampton to start future-proofing our investments into the city by prioritizing sustainability, resilience, and environmental impact into our building code. This is very similar to what other cities around the world are doing, cities like Toronto, Montreal, Barcelona, New York, so on and so forth. We also want to ask Brampton to support our vision so we can continue to help Brampton emerge as a leader in the new low-carbon economy. This is important because visions like ours cannot happen alone. The threat we face is way too big for any one organization to tackle on their own. But with your help and the help of our many other stakeholders, we know that we can make Brampton a key player in the role of a sustainably developed Canada and create a more resilient world for tomorrow and our future citizens. Thank you.
So we do have a
Do you have
couple
any questions?
speakers. We're going to go to Councillor Willens.
Thank you, Akeem, for coming in. We had a nice talk in the office, I guess about a month ago or so. The Ontario market for hemp in 2009 was about 106 acres, I think, something like that. I think it's 2011 they reported there was over 1,400 acres. Now, do you know what that market is now?
I think last year we did just over 1,600 acres.
Okay.
So we are missing some gaps, but that's why individuals like ourselves started to grow hemp as well, so we can add to that acreage.
Now you're producing the herd right at your farm now?
Pardon?
You're producing the herd now at your farm?
So we're producing the full plant, which includes the herd, the fiber, and also the flowers, which are used for medicinal purposes. No THC, you can't get
So
high.
the company out west, is it Manitoba Harvest? Is that one of the ones that does it?
Manitoba Harvest is in Manitoba. They produce seeds from their hemp. But again, they grow the whole flower.
I think their market was estimated in 2011 about $15 million, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. There's one thing you did forget to mention. I know that the R value on that, you did mention about greenhouse gases, but actually there's been some studies done by a couple of authors. Chris Magwood, I think, is one of the guys that writes about sustainable buildings. He was the first guy to build that Bale House, I think, in Ontario.
And he's actually building at Trent University. They're building their new forensic science department out of the Just Biofiber block. He's the one who has that contract. I did his hempcrete building class up in Peterborough, Ontario as well.
I think there's also some studies done that there's actually negative zero footprint. They can get actually going the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great. It's glad you came in. Can you contact me later, because my son is actually on an interesting project in downtown Toronto. They're doing it's a piece of land that they can't build on. No developer will touch it because it's too contaminated. So there's some gentlemen that have taken on the vacant land, and they're doing a sustainable pop-up. They're doing containers, much like they do, like they use the shipping containers to build holes to do it for. I think it's doing retail shops, pop-up shops, but he's actually been contracted to do the park, the landscaping benches, and he's looked at the hempcrete.
Okay.
But he's having problems finding the herd. He doesn't want to bring in 900 pounds from BC or whatever. So I'm just wondering, maybe we can connect later and they can hook him up, because
For sure.
It's going to be a showcase down in Toronto. So it's
For sure.
all about sustainability.
Okay.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Councilor Santos?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you, Akeem and Randy, for coming in today. I know that you have met with a number of us individually, and now you're presenting to everyone, including all of the staff who are here. So a couple of things. I just want to acknowledge the fact that there has been really, with our new council, an increase in youth engagement. You as young people, as entrepreneurs in our city, we're seeing more and more come to City Hall to pitch your ideas, share your creative ideas and solutions to big problems. And it's quite clear from Vision 2040 and your presentation today that our young people care about the environment, especially when it comes to the city in which they live in. Your ideas, when you came to present, I was super impressed. I'm super impressed with what you've done with this presentation here. And I will say to staff that, and you're going to laugh, this is even better than shipping containers. Okay, so I would love to refer this delegation to staff for consideration as we look at the objectives of becoming a more sustainable community. And when we look at building materials for future community centers, libraries, various hubs of sorts, that we should be looking at these new technologies and take the charge and lead the way for other municipalities when it comes to ideas presented by our young people in particular. So I am going to refer this to staff for consideration. And I just want, that's all really I had to say. Actually, no, one other thing. Mm-hmm. So because you are young people and we value your contribution to the city, you shared with many of us kind of your story and how you got to this point with your business. We would love to hear, so that the public can also hear and the young people can hear where you came from and now where you are as business owners.
Okay. Right now?
Yeah.
A little bit. Okay. So, how do we start? Well, we'll start with.
You came down from law school.
Yeah. So, I grew up in Brampton, went to St. Marguerite Deville, and got a scholarship to go play basketball at University of Ottawa. And after that, I coached in basketball for a couple years at Ryerson University. But I realized that I didn't think I wanted to be a coach. I liked the general manager sort of proposition. So when I went on the MBA website, a lot of general managers went to law school. Guess what? We're going to law school. And I decided to go to law school overseas in the UK. While I was doing that, my business partner, Randy Osei, he started a sports management and entertainment company. We have a lot of talent, NBA talent coming out of Brampton. When Anthony Bennett went #1, Randy was right there with him. And that's where Randy launched his company. When I got back in 2017, I started to notice differences in the environment. I was understanding what was going on in the legalization of cannabis a lot differently. And I knew Randy had athletes, so we had a little bit of leverage. I knew that there was a gap that could be filled because medical cannabis, or CBD, is good for pain, inflammation, reduction in brain injury, and could be really helpful for our citizens, especially when we're looking at not using opioids, but using plant-based medicines. So I came to Randy and I said, hey, let's try to use our athletes as spokespersons for the positive side of cannabis. Not what everyone sees on urban TV and music videos. There's a real responsible use story to be told. And that's what started us on this journey. From there, I learned about the hemp plant, which is different than marijuana, no THC. Much better for our athletes, much better for our environment, for our citizens, much better for our environment. Then I started to learn much more and more about how it contributes to sustainable fashion. The fibers use 20 times less water to grow than our cotton does, right? The fashion industry is responsible for 7% of greenhouse gas emissions. Much better for our athletes. Put on a nice hemp-made sweater, athletes wear it to games, we get marketing. Then I learned that we can build with it. Zero carbon emission buildings, all the benefits of green buildings. What happens when individuals like us, we were waking up every day before and after school, spending our times at the YMCA. What if these were green buildings, carbon negative buildings? What does that do for the benefit of our athlete? This is also easy for our athletes to get behind, right? Let's build our recreation centers from it, our libraries from it, our schools. Kept on going. Then I realized there was a lot of marijuana companies, a lot of licensed producers that were doing this, but they were only focused on the recreational side of cannabis. I said to Randy one day, why are we trying to give our athletes to them to increase their message? They don't really understand the social impact that this could have, but we do. So one day it just hit me. I was walking my dog and it hit me and I said, let's do something ourselves. I looked at the rules and regulations, what it took to do hemp, said that we just have to be a farmer. I'm not a farmer, but it doesn't seem hard enough. I used to wake up in the morning, run suicides, all the things that our athletes do. It's just hard work. So we decided to jump in. And then fortunately enough, after we jumped in, we met a lot of farmers in Ontario. This is our team-making abilities, and they helped us out to understand the industry and how to farm, how to use the tractors, what we need to do, and all the different harvesting methods. Then with all that, we've been bringing it all together to try to find a way to sustainably do that. Councillor Williams, you mentioned that there's only about 1,600 acres. The reason being is because the infrastructure here in Ontario isn't set up as it is in the prairie provinces. We still need a little bit of more work to do. But the advantage that we have is when I go out to Calgary, they talk about we have advanced manufacturing expertise, we have construction expertise, we have all these things going for us. So I figured that if we can harness these, we can really bring together a circular ecosystem, a zero waste ecosystem, and have a great impact, because in Ontario, we're one of the leading contributors to greenhouse gas emissions in Canada. So we need to have an impact here and learn from what they're doing in the rest of Canada and the rest of the world.
So, thank you for sharing that amazing story and your journey. We're hoping that other young people follow in your footsteps, your mentors to future generations as well. Thank you again for coming to present, and I will move to refer this back to staff because it is even better than shipping containers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. Councillor Williams.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. It's fascinating information. I know we know the history of hemp and how it was used for generations, but then with the stigma associated with marijuana over the years, it's turned into something that people stay away from. So it's really great to see it being brought back for how it was used historically. So I'm just wondering if you have an actual block. Do you have one in Brampton that you can bring with you to show people? And
I do.
Yeah. What is the weight of each block?
It's very light.
It's very light.
Yeah, I can carry it and I can bring it to your office.
Yeah.
I have it in my car, actually. I didn't want to bring it in today because it's a little bit messy. I've been dragging it around to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why I didn't bring it today. But I can bring it. Let's just say when I went to Calgary and I saw it for the first time, I told them that I had to bring it back.
Yeah.
And I was able to stick it in my carry-on and fly with it without paying an overweight fee.
Really?
And for a block that size, if you can imagine, if it was a cinder block, I wouldn't be able to carry it without breaking my back. So
That's
it's really
right.
good.
I know my friends in the masonry industry would love to hear that it doesn't break their back.
Yes.
So how does I know our climates can be a little bit harsh. So how does our climate here, and especially in Brampton, in Ontario, some of our farmlands north of us, how would that impact the growth?
The growth of the plant?
Yeah.
Well, that's the other key thing about hemp, and the reason why I knew I could start with it. It's one of the most resilient crops that we have. Once you get it into the ground, it sort of takes care of itself. Like last year, where I grew up a little bit past Orangeville, we had a drought, didn't get a lot of rain. But when we did get rain, we saw it sprout, and we got a really good crop. Hemp grows anywhere in the world in a variety of different circumstances. To Councillor Wayne's point, your son, right? He has a property that he can't grow on because it's contaminated. If we know in Chernobyl, they used to have a nuclear disaster there.
That's right.
What they did is they planted hemp there, and it sucked all the radiation out of the plant, out of the ground. So now that they can go back and grow foods and that they can eat from. Environment Canada knows about these benefits, about how we can grow it to remediate our soils, and then we can use the byproducts of that for commercial uses, for biomaterials that are much safer for our environment than our plastics and some of the other materials that we're working with right now. So it's pretty sustainable, it's pretty resilient, even into our outdoor environment. No.
Okay. So it's not like it has to be canopied or something over it. It can just grow.
It's not marijuana. Marijuana needs to be grown in a greenhouse. Okay. This is a cash crop that we grow on the farm.
Okay. So I know the financial impact of marijuana being grown, like per certain, like the amount of space. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you have like a half of a hockey rink, that would generate a certain amount of money from the cannabis sales. Does that also kind of translate to hemp as well? Like, if you have a certain amount, like how much money would you yield from a harvest? I think that's what I'm trying to ask.
It depends on the variety, and it depends on the reason why you grow it.
Yeah.
There's certain varieties that are grown better for seed. There's certain varieties that are grown better for fiber, and there's certain varieties that are grown better for CBD, right? The key thing about hemp is that whichever variety that you grow from, you can access all the markets. You just need to be able to process the plant the right way. There's zero waste, so every part of it can be sold. That's why it's the most profitable cash crop that we have.
Okay. So can you break it down to like numbers? And so if I had like a hockey arena, that size crop, how much would that generate?
I don't know.
Or half an acre. How much would a half an acre generate?
Can you put it to like an acre?
Yeah.
If we grow the pretense that we're working on right now, but I'm only going to talk about CBD because that's what the legalization of cannabis is what's allowing this to be a growing industry going forward, because everyone wants the CBD, right? So I'll say on average deal, an acre of hemp can be worth over $10,000 just by selling the CBD or the flower to licensed producers.
Okay.
Our goal is to take those sales, use that to fuel our industrial purposes, but also to have social impact, to educate and create jobs in our community.
Okay, so 10,000 per acre just for the CBD oil.
You grow it the right way, minimum there.
Okay.
It can go a lot higher, but it will be conservative today.
Okay. And how often do harvests happen? Is it once every 3 months or?
Yep, it grows between 90 and 120 days, so it's rapidly renewable. And in Ontario, we grow it after May 15th, before June 10th. We harvest it anytime around April 31st, before October 1st. Again, it depends what you're growing for.
Yeah.
The fiber harvest comes first, the seed harvest later in the year, and then the high CBD is somewhere in the middle.
Okay. Thank you for answering my
No
question. It's been great.
Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much, through you, Mr. Chair. You came here to talk about a sustainable product, and we're talking agriculture now, which is fantastic. So, and my question is more along the agricultural line as well for the product itself. 120 days from seed to harvest in some cases. So you could technically possibly get a couple. If we have a good long summer and a warm fall, you can get a couple in. And is there a shortage of fields in Ontario to plant this in?
No.
Okay.
So, in fact, and I read the 2016 Peel Consensus, we have over 10,000 hectares in Peel alone. We could do this all here. What we don't have is the manufacturing or the processing equipment to allow our farmers to access all the markets. So an example, Tom Smith, he's up there. Tom Smith's from Barrie. Tom Smith has been sowing the seed, but he has over 100 bales of hemp, which include the fiber and the hurd, sitting on his farm because there's no manufacturing equipment here today. So that's why that's our goal, to get the manufacturing equipment here to open up all the markets to all the farmers. Then we can have more farmers growing it without worrying about where they're going to sell it to or who's going to offtake it. The key is, because now marijuana is legal, it's also impacted the hemp. Now we can sell the flower as well to make the plant even more valuable.
Okay. And as far as cash crops go, does hemp have the potential to make some of the farmers look at it and say, I'm going to switch from soybeans, for example, to hemp?
So we wouldn't switch from soybeans to hemp, not directly, because when hemp follows soybeans, it has the potential to mold. But after a few years, yes, it's the most valuable cash crop we have. We see a lot of tobacco farmers, especially in the United States, switching from tobacco to hemp. A lot of farmers that grow canola. I know right now there's an issue with trade because Canada exports canola to China. China's putting restrictions on it. Those farmers can switch to hemp and have profitable seasons because the hemp is valuable in the global marketplace.
Okay, and last question. You said you use 100% of the product from root to tip?
We don't have a root use yet, so that might be the only part. But we know that ginseng farmers, I've heard, I haven't investigating yet, but people who use ginseng can also use the roots, and I hear that it could be good in teas, very healthy for you. But again, we haven't investigated the root use yet.
Okay, so you said that the hemp plant in Chernobyl, for example, took out the poisons and the whatever else, the toxins. Does the hemp plant put anything back into the soil at the end of its growth cycle?
Put anything back in?
The nutrients?
Parts, yeah. So the parts that are left, so typically right now I know some farmers, they leave parts of the crop on the field because they're not using it. Sometimes farmers, they use combines that only take out part of the plant and then the rest of the dust falls back. So that would be putting the nitrogen back into the ground, making the soil more healthier. The hemp, it also opens up the root beds and it stabilizes water flow, so it's also good for the environment that way. The other thing that I forgot to mention is an acre of hemp will be 4 times as efficient as an acre of trees in absorbing. Yeah. So 1 acre of hemp, 4 acres of trees, 4 times efficient at absorbing carbon dioxide. So it's actually better if we can get more farmers to grow hemp because it's one of the best carbon sinks that we have in this fight against climate change.
Okay, so there's the possibility that farmers who have to leave a field fallow for a year could plant hemp on it and plow in the roots, for example, and restore everything that was missing.
So in the 1600s in the USA, it was mandatory that farmers grow hemp in their rotation. A farmer that I know in Calgary, he just called me when I told him I was doing this presentation. He said to mention in Germany, they put that law back in today. Farmers have to grow hemp in their rotation because of the benefits that it has to the soil and the benefits it has to the environment.
This is a great story all the way around. Thank you.
No problem. Yes.
Councillor Vicente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Akeem and Randy, thank you so much for giving us all an opportunity to see your vision for this product. And I was going to just mention the fact that hemp, because of its qualities, is one of the most efficient carbon sinks in the plant kingdom. And that is one of the reasons why it is such a good material to then use and sequester that carbon into a building material. Its strength, its compatibility with lime and mortars has been actually quite well documented. And that's where the opportunity for this is. And I think it's remarkable that such a natural product can really possess such high-tech qualities. And this council, we salute you for considering to bring your business idea here. I know that the Brampton Entrepreneur Center was very key in helping you both to establish your business. And I want to commend staff for helping young entrepreneurs in this city to identify and realize their ideas in forgive the pun, more concrete fashion. In terms of the energy storage capability, that is like amazing. Can you just explain how that works? I guess in layman's terms, how is it possible for hemp to act as a battery?
There's a couple different ways of getting it, and forgive me, I'm not the most technical.
Very top level.
But top level, we know that hemp is way more efficient, 200 times more efficient than graphene at storing energy, and it's also cheaper than graphene to store energy. And the hemp carbon or the hemp fibers in bricks, what it can do is it can store up to 5 volts of energy in little bricks like we see on our finishes of our house right now. So one of our company's goals is to get this technology here, because again, this vision is too big for any one person to do, but I know that we have the ability, the expertise in Brampton to use the Just Biofiber block that's already building code compliant, and then find ways to store energy in there safely so it can pass building code for the future of our cities, or the future of our homes and our communities.
Again, thank you very much for both of you presenting. We encourage you in any way that we can help.
Thank you.
I look forward to staff's report back
Thank
on
you.
how they can work together with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, team.